right, we are good to go.
Okay.
Well, welcome everybody to episode 13.
13, yeah.
We're on 13. Episode 13 of the AWAKEN Vlogcast. We're talking about balance today, and we're doing it a little bit differently. So today we're actually doing a Zoom. So for those of you who are joining, you can talk live with us. You can do your video. We can see you live face to face, which is so cool because we've been together a couple of weeks now with all of you guys, so it's cool to see you in real time. It's like we're all hanging out in the living room or wherever you're at. You can also talk where we can hear you. And if for some reason we're talking and you have a question that you don't want to forget, there is a chat box that you should be able to type in your question. And we can go back and answer it. You guys might. So just bear with us.
Yeah, it's a little different than what we usually do.
Yeah.
And hey, I can't tell who just, it says Samsung SM. Let's see. Who just joined? I think they're on mute.
Yeah.
Okay. It's okay. It's okay. Hello to everybody. So yeah, this is going to be so weird, but good weird.
No, it's good. It's good growth. So,
yeah.
Welcome and thank you for joining us, everybody.
All right. Should we start?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. So you were asking me why I chose balance. And for those of you that don't know, we switch off every week who chooses the topic. And so this week was my week. And I chose balance because I won't say lately, because for me, pretty much my whole awakening journey has been full of like highs and lows, like ups and downs. And when you start learning and talking about and thinking about the things that we do, things that are outside the norm, outside the box, it just gets, it creates a very interesting perspective in your life. And it just, at least in my case, it makes, I can have really bad days and good days. So, but that's part of this. You're never going to have all good days. You're never going to have all bad days. It's really about finding that balance and learning how to go with the flow of the ups and downs. So that's why I chose balance, because it's a balancing act. This life is a balancing act between the positives and negatives and good and bad. And even though I know those are just labels, but the highs and the lows, like it's ultimately about balancing life the best that you can.
Yeah. Which makes sense because light doesn't exist without darkness. We've talked about that before, how you have to have contrast for the other to even exist. So for all those people who are always preaching that it's always rainbows and butterflies and positive thoughts and love and light and whatever, like cool, that's great, but that's also not realistic because there's also the dark. And in reality, to master the light, you actually have to master the dark first.
That's you go through it. You gotta go through that shit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
it's rough.
Yeah.
It's rough because you start to question yourself too. Because when you're on this journey, you know, you're trying to be the best version of yourself possible and really trying to look at the good in life. And so when you end up in a dark place or you have a bad day or for whatever reason you're just kind of bummed out, it's almost like you're giving yourself a guilt trip, like, oh, like I shouldn't be feeling this way. But that's incorrect and that's false. Like you do need to be feeling through that, whatever it is. Maybe you watched a show, or maybe you remembered something from the past, like whatever the thing is that brought up the sadness or the anger is something that's being presented to you to deal with. So you have to go through all of that. You have to go through all of that anger and sadness and whatever it is. It's not a bad thing. And so I have to constantly remind myself that I'm not failing on my journey. I'm not a bad person for thinking this thought or doing these things. This is just part of it. It's just something we have to do.
Yes, I agree. And I also think that sometimes some of the quote unquote worst things we've been through are the things that shape us the most. Mm-hmm. So like for me, when I've shared my story about some things I went through, they were the most traumatic things that have happened to me. But because I went through those things, now I'm able to help other people.
Mm-hmm.
with the knowledge of walking through that fire and coming out on the other side and still being alive and like, oh my God, I've gained so much knowledge. I have to share this with other people, and it could save them from having to walk through the fire as well. I'm not saying that they still won't do that to some degree, but there's still,
Right.
that's what I feel like a good teacher does. I feel like your students should surpass you. And I say that a lot, about me being a Reiki master. Like, I don't like the term master, because master
Mm-hmm.
means you know how to do everything and you've just perfected it. When I think the best masters or teachers are the ones who continue learning, and
Yeah.
the ones whose students surpass them, because they're able to pass on that knowledge quicker than they would have, than they learned themselves. So like things that took me years to go through, because I'm able to share that knowledge now and insight, the people that I share that with can get through it in like months that took me years,
Yeah.
and surpass me even in enlightenment or whatever you want to say with it, because of that knowledge. It's like cheat codes, kind of.
Yeah. And I like how you say that, how because your title is, you're a Reiki master. That's just the label that they've given it.
Yeah.
And I think the people that I align most with are those that they don't take that label to heart, like, oh, I'm a master and I'm better than you, because that's a red flag for me. It's like, nobody's better than anybody else. And so for people that let their ego get wrapped up in that title or that label, that's just, well, that's just very ego. That's not really the purpose of things. So it's just interesting to see how people that are even masters in certain things are still struggling with that aspect of something. It's just, there's just so many different things when it comes with that. I'm like, we're all just people helping each other ultimately.
I also think it's because, like, for me, my perspective, why I view it that way is because I believe to be a good, I don't like to call it vessel, energy healer, whatever, you should be very humble, because
Mm-hmm.
there are still, no matter how much knowledge I have about it, there's still so much out there to learn that I haven't even touched yet.
Yeah. There's so much.
So much. Like infinite knowledge.
Yeah.
So it's comical to me that we call it Reiki Master, because I'm
Yeah.
like,
That is funny that's the
me,
title.
it's because, so I believe energy healing's been around for way longer than Reiki. Reiki's been around 100 years or so, because someone finally came around and put language to what it was, but I think it's something that's always existed.
Yeah.
So as humans, we like to label things, and that's where the term, Reiki Master came from, was from that.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I just feel like we're vessels, and we will never be able to master everything until we no
Right.
longer exist, which, the universe is ever expanding, so that is never going to happen. There's always going to be new ways to do things.
Right. We're always going to exist.
Yes.
The energetic part of ourselves will always exist. This form may not.
Yes.
But yeah, but we come to this particular experience, this lifetime, to gain perspective and knowledge for whatever it is our soul's purpose or mission is, or whatever you want to describe that as. Like, this is just a tiny piece of that. And I often find myself thinking, I'm like, where does all we can see is this, but I'm like, where does this tiny little piece, this lifetime, fit into the bigger purpose? So I really try to like meditate on that. I'm really trying to do better about meditating, because I just feel better when I do it. So when I am going through those lows and those down times, that's really when I need to connect with myself the most, because I have the answers. Like, we all have our own answers inside of us, which is really, that's not what society teaches us, especially when we get into religion, where you need this outside source. You need to go to church and like learn from a priest or a pastor or whoever to tell you about spirituality, about God, when all that's inside of us. And if we could just take the time to be with ourselves and work through the yucky stuff, work through the good things even, it would be, we could just be so much farther down the path. It's just interesting how we hit different roadblocks like that that throw us off course and that actually cause us to suffer more in the long run than if we just trusted ourselves, which is the universe.
Yeah. I think it's like a catch-22 though, because I believe like people like us who are all obviously here, we're all awake, we all think differently. I think because of a construct like religion existing, it does make people question. And when people question, that's the best thing you can do. They don't always all blindly accept it. So it sparks something inside of them to ask questions to figure out what it is to them. And then it can lead
Exactly.
down the journey.
Yeah.
So I feel, I don't know. It's interesting when it comes to religion. One, because I think all religions are the same and they are talking about the same things. They just tell
Oh, definitely. There's truth in all of them.
I think everything's connected. I think we're all connected. And like I said, I think that's just another thing that happens. Just like the worst things that happen, right? Terrorism, stuff like that. As bad as it sounds to say that those things happen sometimes for a reason, look at the results sometimes of those things happening. Like, for example, use the Oklahoma City bombing here. That was an act of terrorism. It was horrible. There were children that died, 168, 169 people. I can't remember the exact number, but it was horrible, right? But look how it brought everyone together. Yeah. And also, I think I've talked about this on one of the lives before too, that response that they had to that terrorist event, like the triage, like how they were separating out people as they were pulling them out and all that stuff, they ended up using that later on when the Twin Tower attacks happened. And they used what they learned from the Oklahoma City bombing. So they gained all that knowledge from that, and then they were able to use that in a bigger event that happened.
Wow. So, I didn't know that part of it. Wow.
Yeah, so it's like, as horrible as that thing was that happened, look how many people's lives it probably saved because of that.
That's true. That's true. Man, it's crazy when you zoom out like that on things.
Yeah, if you really step back, if you can disassociate from 3D real quick, flow it outside of your body, and just look at the bigger picture. Like, for those who believe in God, if you were God looking down from wherever he's at, his throne in the clouds, I don't know. But if you're looking down, I just like, think of like an alien. There, you might associate that.
There you go.
Think of an alien looking down at planet Earth and looking at the whole bigger picture, really. Like, step outside of yourself, step outside of your box, your surroundings, what's going on. Look at the bigger picture, what's going on all over the world. Not just what the media highlights, but like all over the world. Mm-hmm. And I think when you do that and you can step outside of yourself, that's those people that do that, those are the ones that change the world. Because yes, they're doing it to better maybe their immediate surroundings, but if they can see the whole bigger picture, like, that's the world changers. Right. Because they want to do it for the collective.
Exactly. Because we are the collective. Yes. We all are connected.
Yeah, because like this, right? We wanted to do this. Me and you were already doing this all the time, having these conversations, just bouncing off of each other, like really expanding, making each other grow. And it literally evolved and blossomed from us doing that to saying, we need to have more people in this conversation. We need to do this. This needs to expand and spread. And now look what we've turned it into all this time later, and all these people from all over the United States that it's connected. And it's really cool to think about. So we are serving the collective by doing that.
We are. We're just creating a space that's, there's not a lot of spaces like this where you can discuss anything and everything without judgment.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah.
I think there'll be more spaces, because also with the collective, what happens is when you have a certain thought into the collective and you put it out there, right? Other people, and I've talked about this with designs or things that I've had in my head and I didn't do it, and then I see it a week later and I'm like, dang it, why didn't I do that? Yeah. Thing like when this stuff starts happening, when we create spaces like this, that is now the new normal. That goes out into the collective, and then more people will start thinking of those ideas. It's like, I cannot remember his name. He was a really fast runner, like Olympic runner, right? Mm-hmm. And up until that point, someone can only run a mile. I don't even remember what it was. I don't know if it was a mile or whatever. Anyway, someone could only run it in like 3 minutes. And everyone that tried couldn't beat like 3 minutes, or maybe it was 4 minutes. And until one day this guy came along, he said, I can do it in 3 minutes. And they're like, no way, you can't do it. It's not possible, whatever. He's like, no, I can do it. He ran it in 3 minutes. And then after that, now that ceiling has been broken through, people have even broken that record. Like for whatever distance it was. And it's like that with the collective. So when we break through a ceiling, that's now the new normal. That other old ceiling is gone. Mm-hmm. It can't go back. So like we've reached a tipping point even now with awareness and consciousness and the collective that there's no way for us to go backwards.
Yeah. You can't unknow.
Yes.
Once you know, you know. Even if you want to unknow, you're like, well, that's just
awareness is the biggest. Once you have awareness, you can't have unawareness.
Yeah.
And sometimes, and I've talked about that, I think, on here, my journey going through stuff, I'm like, there was times at the beginning when I feel like the beginning of your awakening is the hardest because you're kind of in between the two worlds, and you're like, oh my God, what's happening?
Yeah.
And I specifically remember sometimes at the beginning of my awakening, like wanting to go back to sleep. I'm like, can I just have a day to go back to sleep before I was aware of all these things that were happening?
Just one day.
It's overwhelming, right? So you get used to that being your new normal, and then choosing to react powerfully to those things.
Yes.
So anyway, that's my opinion on it.
That was good. Does anyone else watching? You don't have to chime in, but since we are on Zoom, like if you have perspective on this or you want to share your journey or have questions, like feel free to chime in.
Your video, you can do your just your voice if you want, and there's also a chat box if you can see it. You can type in your questions or what you want to share too. I can say somebody will. So
I don't see the chat box. Let me see if I can.
Are you on your computer?
No, I thought I could see it on my phone, but maybe not. But it's okay. If you can see it, then that's fine.
Yeah, I can see it. But if somebody wants to chime in, they can either do video or they're just talk if they can't see the chat box. So that works too.
Yeah.
So what do you find helps you most with balance? With this being aware, this awakening, and I know there's still sometimes that you just as I do, kind of get off balance, much information. Just put it off for a day.
Yeah.
What do you do to kind of balance that out for yourself? What helps you?
So for me, I will say, so before I even get to that, I'll say when I get to that point and I know I need to be unbalanced, I have to be mindful that I'm not checking out because I tend to want to check out and not even deal with it. And so I'll check out by like turning on Netflix or watching a show, like something that just completely numbs my mind and just doesn't allow me to think about that. Because if you're like watching a show, you're totally engrossed in that show. You don't have to think about anything except that show. So that's my first step is I have to say, okay, I'm not going to check out. I'm going to check in with myself. And for me, I like just sitting in silence, maybe with my headphones on, listening to ocean waves, just to meditate, just to talk to myself, ask myself questions. Because for me that, and it's not silence, I guess, because it's just a peace, just a peaceful, I don't know.
Can you hear me? Your voice cut out. Hold on.
I'm muted now.
Okay, there you go.
Now I'm unmuted.
I fixed
you muted me. Let's see. Did anyone get any of that or was I too choppy?
The last thing I heard was about waves, ocean waves.
Oh, okay. So I don't like silence, but I'll put on like ocean wave sounds just to sit with that peace and myself, just to meditate a little bit, because I have to be with myself in order to deal with those things. Whereas I have that tendency to check out, I have to check in with myself. And in order to do that, I need to have that peaceful quiet with some sort of nature sounds, which is typically the ocean, because I'm drawn to water for whatever reason. And I know that water is cleansing. Water consists of 70% of our body, 70% of the earth. So since I can't be at the beach, I bring the beach to me and just find that peace with myself there.
Yeah. And I think that's important, and I'll share this as a part of NLP side with people. When you said that about the beach, it made me think of this. So when you said, when I can't go to the beach, I bring the beach to me, I just want everybody to know that's watching this, you can do that for yourself. And that's what I talk about. I mean, this is what I do every day with NLP. The power of the mind is super extraordinary. And what I mean by that is, so when I'm working with people rewiring their minds and stuff like that, I specifically make them pick 2 really good memories that we use to anchor. So for example, she's talking about the beach. So one of my strong anchoring memories that I use, that's a good memory of mine. I go to my senior trip to Hawaii, and I was laying on the beach, and I could smell the smells coming off the ocean, the water, hear the birds. I could feel the sun. I could feel the feeling of the sand beneath me. Like, even just talking about it, my body, I can already feel my body going right back into it.
Yeah.
And that's
I can feel that too, and I wasn't even there.
Yeah,
Like,
and that's a part of it. That's a part of hypnosis, and that's why NLP works for those things. So if you guys have a good memory like that, and it can be any point in your life, doesn't matter how old you are or whatever, but just some good memory that you can go to, like you were talking about the beach, like it could be the mountains for somebody else or whatever it is. It could be a memory with a loved one that's not here with them anymore.
Mm-hmm.
If you're ever having a bad day, you can actually, like, you're just feeling really crappy, you can just close your eyes and make sure your chin's up, because when you're down, you're going into hypnosis. But when your chin's up, go close your eyes and go back to that memory. And when you feel that memory, I want you to notice things about that memory. What are things you hear? What are things you smell? What are things you see? What are things you feel? And then I want you to feel that good feeling. And then as you feel it, I want you to make it even stronger. And I want you to spread that good feeling throughout your whole body. And then after you do that, you just take, hold around your wrist like this. Take a deep breath in. Blow it out. And say peace. And what that's doing is anchoring that really good memory and feelings in your mind, but into your body. So it's called a good bad collapse. It's collapsing that bad feeling that you might have previously been thinking or feeling. Mm-hmm. So I just want to share that, because that's a quick trick. Oh my gosh, quick trick that everyone can do.
And I've done that with you before with a few things.
Yeah.
And so it's crazy how it's like an instant peace. It's just,
yeah.
I mean,
and it's because when I said the good bad collapse, so when it means you're literally, your brain can't do 2 things at once. So if you're having that bad feeling and you switch it, and you're like, no, think about this. You're collapsing the bad feeling with the good feeling, because the good feelings going to be usually overpowering of that. And you're interrupting that thought process, that thought pattern, the negative one, and you're replacing it with what you'd rather feel. And that's why I tell people about the gratitude exercise, right? When you're feeling crappy or whatever, to start naming things you're grateful for, and that'll instantly shift you also, your vibration, how you're feeling.
Yeah.
It's important, because we are talking about balance in this episode. So that's why I'm sharing these things with you. Because these are things I use in my personal life. These are things I use with my clients, my friends, all my family, because they work.
They do.
Yeah.
And
the coolest ones
I will talk out loud to myself too. Just,
I do that all the time.
I'm like, come on. Like yesterday was a good example. Normally I have to get up pretty early to feel like I have a good start to the day, because when the kids get up, it's just chaos. And so it was just kind of lazy yesterday, and I was feeling kind of bad about that, which is kind of weird, because it's okay to have lazy days. I'm working on that. But it was like 11 o'clock. It was like 11 o'clock, and I was like, no, we're going to get stuff done, and I'm going to feel accomplished today, which normally wouldn't happen by 11 o'clock. And like, we did. I think I even went like in the bathroom and looked at myself in the mirror, and I was like, we could still get stuff done today, Morgan. Like, let's just do it. And then I just did it. So, it's just funny little things like that. Like, and don't even think that they're funny. Like, if it works, talking to yourself to motivate yourself to do something, looking in the mirror at yourself, because you are talking to a reflection of yourself, which is kind of what we are, is just a wrong reflection of who we think we are in our mind. But so I find I'm talking a lot more to myself, just to pep talk or support or whatever you want to call it, but it helps me a lot.
Yeah, I do that too. And I do think it's funny. I will literally even laugh to myself like, that was really stupid. You don't really like. I'm talk to myself like I would talk to a really good friend.
Right.
Like when I say, like when my friends, and you know this, we're friends. If one of my friends is around me and they say something that's like a limiting belief or just a bullshit statement about themselves, I'm like, really? Really?
Yeah, I know.
Or like, or I'll tell them to say that. If you have a negative thought process about yourself specifically, right? This works really good. You're supposed to say that negative thought out loud in the dumbest voice you can come up with, so you can hear how ridiculous it actually sounds.
Oh,
we'll talk in our head all day, but like, let's say example, I'm not pretty enough, right? Lots of women have that. So if you were to say it instead of just in your head and out and verbalize it and say it stupid, like, I'm not pretty enough, it just sounds ridiculous. And then you can't help but laugh and like, that is so stupid. It's a great way to break those thought patterns. And then it replaces it, you're laughing because of how dumb it sounds. And then that's a bad collapse. So if you guys want to try that too, you can.
That's a good tactic. I'm not pretty enough.
Try it next time.
Brilliant.
Next time you have a limiting belief or something stupid that comes up and you know it's not true, just say it out loud in the dumbest voice you can think of. Or if you're good at impersonating people or characters, do it in their voice. And it's really funny.
That is funny.
Quite interesting.
Have you noticed, like, before I even like heard of that, people would do that anyway, like kind of to make fun of other people, but not like to make fun of them, but just to let them know, like, that just sounds so dumb. And then it makes them laugh. And so I just have noticed that with other people that may not be aware of what they're doing necessarily, but they do it anyway.
Yeah, I've got friends that I'll do that with. Like I said, it's funny. Like I said, they don't realize they're doing it. And so they'll just keep going off and they'll just keep saying stuff and I'll look at them like, I'm not pretty enough. And I'll look at them and they're like, it's just funny. And then they'll keep going and I'll say it again, whatever the next thing is. And they're like, okay, I get it. It's just, but the thing is, some people don't get it until you bring it to their awareness. So that's the point of why I do it. I don't do it to be a dick. I do it to help them.
Oh yeah, it is. Awareness is
like, I'm not making fun of them. I'm just breaking their pattern. Pattern interrupting is what it's called. But
yeah, well, you've done that with me a lot, and I'm a lot better. I still
now you do
sometimes, but you would do that to me a lot, and I'd be like, oh yeah. And then I found myself when you weren't around and I would say something or think something, I'd be like, Ashton would like fuss at me for that. And it was my brain like rewiring itself because somebody brought it to my awareness.
Yep.
So thank you.
You're welcome. I think whoever told me that, I mean, a lot of it was from my training. The Tony Robbins events that I went to, stuff like that. He uses a ton of NLP stuff and hypnosis in his events that people aren't even aware that's what it is. But once you know, you can't unknow these stuff. Yeah, but it's good and it helps people, so that's all that matters.
Absolutely.
So does anybody, if you're watching and if you want to talk, you can, or you can type in the chat box. Does anybody have anything that they do, like maybe it sounds goofy or whatever, but to interrupt those negative thought patterns, or anything that you do to help bring balance to yourself? Morgan talked about the things she did. Some of the things I do, I play a video game. That's one of my things. Because I'm always so in my head, like I'm always up in these higher chakras, right? When I'm doing energy healing and stuff like that. So I have to be very purposeful about grounding myself more often because I'm always up here, which means my head is always going too. Mm-hmm. So to ground myself, I'll play my video game, right? It's a basketball game and I am so good at it that I can like just do it without thinking. It's just autopilot kind of because I've played it so much, but that's good for me because I can do something I like and kind of unplug, or meditating, or taking an Epsom salt bath, or walking my dog. Like I like to do that when we go on walks. So Kimberly says, I play games too, mindless games like Tetris. Exactly. So that's awesome. And it's so calming. And it's funny because some people...
Does anybody want to hear from me?
Oh, yeah.
So I do my makeup.
Okay.
And I do a lot of, oh, you are so sexy, like in the mirror, because in my head, I don't think I am,
So you're doing mirror
but
work.
out loud, I sure am.
That's right. That's awesome.
I'm sorry, but I'd fuck me. I'm sorry.
Like you sexy bitch. Look at you.
That's right, you sexy bitches.
And that's amazing, because, especially for women, because if you think about the time, even as we're very young, like that's why I thought something was wrong with me growing up, because I didn't connect with what I was seeing in magazines or on TV, and I'm like, oh well, that's what you have to be a woman, which is not true, because everyone comes all shapes, sizes, colors, personalities. Like, we are not cookie cutter by any stretch of the imagination. So I think it is important. That's
I do a lot of this too.
Yeah.
That's right.
Because mirror work and stuff like that. And Marilyn said, I want Scooby-Doo. Yeah.
I love you. You're so, I love that you do that.
And then, I already read Kimberly. She said, I play games too, mindless games like Tetris. So yeah, all those can be meditating and grounding for yourself to bring balance. Some people like to read. Some people like to draw. Some people like, to garden, to play instruments, to write, like whatever it is. So what if you don't have any of those things, finding at least one thing to do would be really good for you. Or if you already have one thing, maybe finding a couple other in case, like, for example, I mean, theirs were all pretty easy that you could do anywhere, but say like someone's is gardening. They can't garden at work necessarily. So it's good to have like a backup. So when you're at work, you still have a way to also ground yourself, because as we know, sorry, there's something floating. At work can be some of the most stressful environments for some people. So it's really good to bring balance,
Sure.
especially if your boss is not woke and they're projecting all their stuff on you. It's pretty easy.
Yeah, that's not fun. I've been there.
I think we've all been there at some point. And if it's not, your boss, it could be your parents, it could be your sibling, it could be your landlord. I don't know, somebody.
Yeah.
Like, we've all had at least one interaction with one of those people.
Yeah, those are hard when you're woke and they're not. You're just like, oh my god. Like,
but it's also important to respect where people are on their journey, and to remember that you aren't always where you are now. And sometimes when you are aware, you just want to shake people that are not aware and be like, oh my god, wake up. But we have to remember,
we can't slap people.
Yeah, wake up. I don't know. People did that with the V8 thing for the longest time. I remember, like, should have had a V8. Like, should have woke up. Like, I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
Hit him right in the third eye. Just like, wake up. But I think it's important, because you have to remember that if someone came along before you were woke or aware and tried to shake you, you wouldn't have understood then. We're all meant to understand in our own time. And sometimes it's just about planting seeds with people. Because sometimes when you're talking, you're going to get the eyes glazed over, deer in headlights look, and they're going to be like, what are you talking about? And it's because it's like you're speaking another language. They literally are not ready to receive the information or knowledge that you're sharing with them.
Yeah.
But it is important that you still are planting a seed, because that way when they are ready, you're going to be probably the first person they come to, be like, oh my God, I totally get what you were talking about 3 years ago. Remember at that party when you were telling me about this thing, blah, 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 blah. Well, it makes sense now. And you're like, what? Oh yeah, that thing. That's like old news to you, but it's like brand new to them, and it's 3 years old, and they're just like, so
like, I finally got it.
Yeah, it finally clicked. So
I love that, because I'm getting more and more people that will reach out to me or message me, and they're ready to talk, and they know that I'm the person they can talk to. And it's
you are a way shower.
Yeah, it's just amazing to have those conversations, because you can tell just the relief in their energy, even if it just is over text message or messenger or something, that it's like, oh, I can finally get this out or ask this question to somebody that's not going to think I'm crazy or stupid, or that I'm going to hell, or I'm a bad person. That we need to give that to other people. And I like those conversations, and I like having those conversations with other people and creating that space for that. I thrive in that, actually. I love it.
Agreed. And that's like why we created Awaken, right?
Yeah.
For that exact reason. and we used our platform, since we both have a pretty big following for each of us, that we could cross-reference everybody and like really ripple effect. The power of collaboration is even bigger because our light is brighter as two than it was of one.
Yep.
And then now all these people who are watching, that watch every week and things like that, that light just keeps getting brighter and brighter, and that's going to attract more people, and it's just really cool.
Yes.
But I feel the same way. I do feel like more people reach out now more than ever, and I think that's because, like we talked about, the conscious collective awakening. There's been tons of huge shifts happening this past year alone, and right now, even in the middle, the month of July, we're going to be going through some stuff. It's going to be a lot of purging and clearing the unhealed things that need to be brought to light. So if any of you know what I'm talking about, just be prepared that you're going to probably have some work to do this month. And also know that it's a good thing, because 2019 has been all about rebirth, healing old wounds and old traumas, and stepping back into your power, into your light. And things have happened. I mean, it's only been half through the year, 6 months. And things have happened so quickly in so many people's lives that would have taken years to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just know that if you're going through that or coming up on going through that you will move through it. And on the other side of that is something that you're going to be like, oh my God, all of that pain was worth it.
Yes.
So just stick with us. We're here together. You're not alone. Yep. When you start going through that, that's the point of the AWAKEN Vlogcast community group and stuff like that. And these things is so you have people to talk about. You're not ever going through it alone. We're actually all going through it together as a collective. So you have a sounding board, you have a support group, and I think that's just important to say those things.
Absolutely. How are we doing on time? We doing okay?
Yeah.
Haven't kicked us off yet.
Well, I got an alert saying that for this first one, they were gonna give us unlimited time. It just popped up a little bit ago.
Oh, well, that's cool.
Yeah. Anybody that's watching, when we're talking about the awakening, like when you woke up, if you're watching, you probably already have. If not, that's okay too. Those of you who are watching, do you have a moment that you specifically remember, like where things just, a light bulb came on for you, things started making sense? Was there some big life event that happened that woke you up? I'm just curious, because I don't think we've asked that before. So
that's a good question.
Like for me, somebody's talking. Who is it?
Yeah. It's the dog.
No. Well, the dog wanted to let us know.
He's like, here's my journey.
Yeah, so for me, it was like when my cousin passed away in the car wreck that I shared, and that really awoken me to like thinking, this cannot be it, right? And that started my journey. So that was mine.
Marilyn had a question, or she.
Yeah, she said, Marilyn said my father's death. So that was your awakening moment. Debbie, did you want to say something on yours? I don't know if I can hear her. Her video froze. Kimberly said, I've always had a curiosity my whole life. Oh, she's. Hold on, let me unmute.
So yes, I did want to chime in.
There you go. Go for it. We can hear you now.
Now the dogs aren't barking. The day that I decided I want to divorce my husband.
That was your awakening?
Yeah. I was done.
Was
I
there
was just done.
particularly that came up for you that you were just like, this is it, this is what I'm supposed to do? Any certain feelings?
There was just like all of a sudden, like a light bulb went off, like a light switch, and all of a sudden I just realized this is just all not right. This is just not right. You know, everything that I thought was what I was supposed to be doing, I was doing everything right, and it wasn't right. It wasn't feeling right inside, but it was looking right on the outside. And so I was done being superficial, and I was just done.
So how did it feel after you made that decision?
I felt so free. I was like, yes, queen, yes.
Did the world look different to you, like the way you interacted with it or anything? Did your perspective?
Yes. Nobody else's opinion mattered anymore. I was like, I'm done. I'm just like,
F you guys.
That's right.
Really cool.
Yep, that was today. All right, I'm going to mute myself again.
Okay.
So I don't know if you heard me, but I read Kimberly's too. She said, I've always had a curiosity my whole life. So I think I can second that too. Like I did think differently my whole life, but I don't think that I knew that's what it was. But I did question things a lot more. I was very in my head a lot more as a kid. But I definitely think when he passed away, that like really that was something strong that happened that just made me really start questioning everything. And then I also read Marilyn says my father's death. Anybody else have anything they want to add? And when you went through those things, I'll ask you the same thing I asked Debbie Joe. Like, did it change your perspective on life? Did it make you view things differently, feel things differently, experience things differently than you did prior to those events happening? Just curious. So like for me, when it changed for me, I literally viewed life differently. I tend to not take things as seriously as I used to, and I mean like little things like that would piss me off or whatever in the past. It's just not worth it, because we literally are not guaranteed how long we're going to be here. I mean, when my cousin, he was 21, he died in a car wreck, and I had just talked to him a couple hours earlier, right? And it can be like that for any of us sitting here talking now. Like, we could not be here tomorrow, tonight, in the morning, whatever, we don't know. And I think it's important. It's like what you talked about earlier, Morgan, about stepping back and seeing the bigger picture. Mm-hmm. That's how I view life in general because of that event that happened. Like, I express love to all people, and even in like recent events that have happened in my life, as bad as they have been, I still express love to that person because I know that person has some healing to do themselves. And it's really hard, especially not just knowing the light and energy work side of it, but knowing the psychology side of it and the trauma side of it. I know that person has something that they need to work through also. And it's kind of hard to hate people because when you see yourself in people, and I don't hate myself, it's hard to hate others no matter what they do that's quote unquote wrong or mean, because you really genuinely just do want the best for everyone, in my opinion. Yeah. Kimberly said, I can't say there was one thing. I was able to do things as a child that I can't do now. I have always wanted to know more and more and more. Okay, so when you say you were able to do things as a child that you can't do now, do you mean like you had abilities that maybe you cut off that you used to have? Because the good news is, if that's the case, you can always get it back. It's not something you'll lose forever. Kids tend to lose that temporarily because programming or parents telling them that they can't do that or whatever. Yes. Okay. So if you're wanting to gain those things back, it is possible. It's a mental muscle, just like anything else we talk about on here. I don't know what your abilities were, but there are numerous exercises, meditations, things like that you can do to gain that back and to practice that daily to get it stronger and stronger. Just like every time I do Reiki, my connection to Reiki becomes stronger and stronger. But meditation is definitely one of the biggest things you could do because you're able to communicate with your guides, to your higher self, to source, whoever it is, if you have questions about it or if you want their help. So the thing with guides are they can't just help you just to help you. You have to ask for the help. That's the biggest thing. So if you're wanting to tap back into your gifts, just ask your guides, hey, I'm ready for this now. I would like to be used as a vessel for blah, 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 whatever gift it is. And then say that I'm open to your guidance or whatever it is for you. You could try that and see how that works for you if you're wanting to get back in touch with that. Are you still there, Morgan?
Yes.
Okay. I couldn't hear you. So I was like, I don't know if you're talking or not.
I'm being really still.
No, it did look like you froze, and I was like, no, you. That was such a show last week. That was insane.
That was crazy. That's why I didn't want to mess with it this week. We're like, I don't even want to try it.
Well, and then after today, it was a mess. So
yeah, today was a mess.
It's all good. Hopefully next week it'll be back working the way it's supposed to. So.
Yes. But this is fun. It's good to switch it up and hear other people's voices and see their faces and
cool.
Yeah. We make it work.
Yes.
We work around stuff. Okay.
Life does not rule us. We rule life.
That's right. We are life.
So what else do you want to cover? We covered balance. We covered a couple of other things, but awakenings.
Oh gosh. I mean, there's everything.
We can't talk about aliens because
I know we got to save the alien talk. Yeah.
That'll be like a week or two.
Yeah. I don't know. I'll say lately, as far as meditation goes, I've enjoyed working on the bus. And I know that's not meditation. And yes, there are some parts I'm kind of done with the windows. But just getting out and working with my hands, creating something that I know will have a positive effect on our future, it's going to be for adventures, is really enjoyable. It's a really good meditative experience because I can just sit there with my thoughts and just create this thing that, not even 6 months ago was nothing. It didn't even exist in our reality, and now it's our reality, and it's going to be our reality in the future. So it's really been a fun process that I enjoy, meditating and manifesting and all those things together.
Well, and that's what's cool. So at first, when you said it wasn't meditating, it is. Meditation can be anything. It's not, and I just want to say that for people who maybe they don't want to meditate. Meditation can be anything that you can do for numerous amounts of time. Like you look up and you're like, oh my God, it's been 2 hours or 3 hours or whatever. Or like basically time doesn't exist whatever you're doing.
Right.
Whatever that activity is, that's a form of meditation for you. Some people that can be drawing and coloring, writing, playing music, gardening, playing basketball, playing a video game, working on your bus, whatever that is, it's different for everybody. So you could have an activity, if you know what I'm talking about, that you do and you can get lost in. You don't even think about time when you're doing it, and then you look up and it's been like an hour or two. Like that's meditation for you.
Yeah.
Not just sitting in the lotus position,
I know.
So much more to meditation than that.
Yes.
There's breathwork meditation. There's walking meditation. There's just so much out there. And I think it's important for people to know that because a lot of people don't. They just, when you say meditation, they think of sitting on a cushion in the lotus position.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a question. Since I'm new to all this, speaking of all the different meditations, where do you start? Where's a good place, to begin? I've begun my journey just kind of recently, and I'm really I've had a lot of changes in my life positively, and I'm just, I don't know which way to go. There's so much you can do.
So I would say whatever works best for you, and it's not going to be one size fits all. You might try something not like it, and you can just go the next thing. I think a good thing to start with, if you're really not into meditating at all, is just the breathwork meditation that I talked about. So taking the deep belly breath, so inhaling through your nose, and you inhale to a count of 7, pause before you hold your breath for 7 count, and then you blow out for 7 count, and then you pause and hold it again for 7, and then you just repeat. That is so it can be something as simple as that. If you're wanting to actually sit and meditate, there's tons of guided meditation. Usually is good for beginners because a lot of people have a hard time just quieting their mind. But that is important when you are learning to meditate, and even as you're a seasoned meditator, those thoughts are still going to come. It's not fighting the thoughts, because a lot of people, when they first start meditating, they get frustrated with themselves because they can't quiet their mind. They're like, oh my God, my mind won't shut up. Shut up. Why are you thinking about this right now? And the fact is, those thoughts are going to come. Don't fight them. Acknowledge them when they come up. Notice like, oh, I've got to do the dishes. Okay, I'll do that later. And then let it go. Don't resist.
I've been doing yoga, and it's been really, really helpful with, I have lupus and some other stuff, and so it's been really helpful, like even meditatively, you know, because the person I've been watching, like in the end, she closes with kind of just sitting there and breathing and just kind of coming back to center. So it's been really helpful. But thank you.
You're welcome. And that's a good way to start. I mean, if you're already doing yoga itself is very meditative. I mean, they work with certain chakras, certain positions. So that is a good place for you to start if you're already doing that. And especially if you're doing the breath work with it, I think that's good for you to start there.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I know I have an app. It's called Insight Timer. And you can set up how, like if you want to do 7 minutes, you can do that. You can give background sounds. You can set up like a little bell that rings in the beginning or every 5 minutes. And for me, I like that. I like some sort of calming, peaceful sound, because it puts me in a different space than just the quiet in my house.
Yeah.
And also the Calm app is really good. That's where I get my ocean sounds too. So those are 2 apps that I use just for quick little, 10-minute meditations. I think there are guided ones on there too, because sometimes if my mind is really busy, I need that guide to kind of help, like, oh, okay, bring me back here. Here's what I do. And then YouTube is good too. There's different, if you like nature sounds, you can find things on YouTube. There's just, you find what works for you, and, don't be afraid that, like, if you don't like something or if it just didn't vibe with you, that it's just like, oh, you got to throw it all away. Just keep trying until you find what works for you. But those are what work for me, and that's what I like. So that's just my input. Yeah.
Okay.
My favorite is binaural. So binaural beats, there's so many, it's just a frequency, it's sound. You can get them for certain chakras. If you have trouble sleeping, there's certain ones you can do for sleep. If you have anxiety, certain ones you can do for anxiety. But what it is it's perfect to listen to if you have headphones, because it plays one tone in one ear and a different tone in the other ear, and it makes your brain create the missing tone between the two. So it helps your left and right brain hemispheres connect with each other. But there's some really good ones, and you can find those on Spotify, YouTube, and there's everywhere on those.
Yeah.
What was it called again?
Binaural beats, and I'll put it in the chat. I don't know.
Okay.
Okay. So binaural beats is what it is. I don't know if you can see that or not.
Okay. Yeah, I can.
Okay. Kimmy, the binaural beats, that isn't an app. I think you might be talking about the Insight app that Morgan was talking about. That's an app. There's the Calm app. There's the Headspace app. Those are all apps that are for meditation or sounds. And then the binaural beats that I was talking about is actually just different music tracks, if you will, for different things. I think I missed a comment. Oh, Kimmy said, I've really enjoyed watching the Reiki session. I've watched 2 sessions, and each time time seems to fly by, but I've been so relaxed and almost on another plane. What was she asked the name of the app. Yeah, so that's what happens a lot of times when people are having sessions with me. That's why I said sometimes people fall asleep. Sometimes
you just like
yeah, you're just centering, you're getting in that meditative state, and it is. There are people that talk about being like other planes. Morgan, if you want to share your experience, what you've had before.
What my one today?
Yeah, or just anything like that, getting in that space. Even
okay.
And we've even had sessions where that's happened with you before, you and I've had other clients talk about feeling like out of body, like you almost feel like you're floating out of your body.
True. So with you, when I've done Reiki sessions in the past, I would literally feel like I was spinning. Like obviously my body wasn't spinning, but I had this, I can't describe it other than like I was spinning around. And like, I would even have to like peek my eye open. I was like, I'm not spinning, am I? Like, it felt so real. It was, but that was just the energy like going through my body. And it was just, it's really wild to feel something so real that's not physically happening, but it's happening energetically, which is just as real.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
You want to share your experience today?
Yeah, I guess so. So today, I don't know if you guys have heard of, Akashic Records. Akashic Records. I'm so new to them. I'm not an expert, but I know enough of them that it's essentially everything that's ever existed in time. It's like a record. Think of like a library of anything that's ever existed. So I went and I found a guided meditation, because I had about an hour. And I was like, I'm going to try this. And with those I've read, you have to be really careful, because you don't want to just like, just like go in and like check in on everyone else. Like, you have to have a very specific purpose if you're going to go do this, because if you think about everything that your spirit has experienced in all of time, there could be things you may or may not want to do. So you have to be very specific in what you're asking for. And essentially, so I went through this guided meditation, and I was laying down on my bed. I had my eyes closed. And for me, I will see different colors and symbols, sometimes even faces. Like, I don't like, when your eyes are closed, you have the blank screen that's there almost. So I get flashes of those different things. And then it like guided me into the temple, I guess. And it tells you like, go find at least this one is like, go find your glowing book, and you open it to a page and a specific time. And then you really do get like a dream or a memory of, in this case, it was in the past. So it was a memory, but it's like you experience this moment in time from another lifetime almost. And like you feel it. And it actually, it was, okay. So I asked, I'm like, what, kind of what's my purpose here? What can I do to help humanity? Because I feel kind of lost sometimes with all like the shit that's going on in the world. And I'm like, what can I do? Like, what is this? And so it brought me back to 1847. I don't know. And it was just me with a man, with my lover, just like out in nature, just being together, just focused on each other, not stressed out about bullshit, but just being together and focusing on love. And so the message I got from that is just be more present with the ones that I love, because ultimately that's where we have the most impact. Yep. And what's really crazy is my husband came home and we were talking about different things, and he was like, I felt kind of close to me, and I was like, so when did you start feeling these feelings? He's like, it was about 1:30, 2 o'clock. I was like, that's literally like when I was going through that meditation. So I got the feeling that his soul and my soul, that we've been together for a very long time, and we keep finding each other in these lifetimes. Because it was weird, because he's like, I felt it was just like an urge suddenly that he felt, that I also felt in that exact same time, when I never told him what I was doing. And I was like, that's freaking weird and wild and kind of amazing. So somehow it's just being more present with the ones that I love, being more intentional with creating this bond with my husband, because that ultimately will create our future and will affect the future for us and for our kids. And so I've never done the Akashic Records before, but that was really, really intense. Yeah, it was really intense, but it was really amazing and felt so real. Yeah.
It's really cool. They talk about couples that meditate together. The reason that's so powerful is because, I mean, you could be next to each other meditating, or you could be, in different places, but it's your higher selves communicating with each other, like out of the 3D. That's basically what you were doing.
Yeah.
cool when that happens. So,
yeah. I was like, oh my God, that's awesome. Yeah.
I'm gonna read these comments real quick. Kimmy said there's another one called binaural beats. So I don't know if you're talking about an app, Kimmy, but that's just what they're called in general. You can look them up on YouTube or Spotify. Just type in binaural beats, or say you want if for something specific, you could say binaural beats anxiety, binaural beats insomnia, binaural beats chronic pain, stuff like that. Okay, both of those are apps. So then they probably have some in that app already. I don't know if it's a paid app or not, but there are stuff for free also on those things I mentioned, YouTube and Spotify. She said the first session I actually listened to while I was driving 30 minutes away, and it was the coolest thing. I think she's talking about the Reiki. Yeah, the Reiki. Yeah, so the Reiki is really cool. Yes, Reiki. It's so interesting because this isn't as delayed as one of our lives. Like we'll ask a question and we have to like wait for the answer.
Yeah.
It was immediate. I was like, okay, that was interesting. So that's cool. Yeah, the Reiki is really cool, and that's the reason I started doing that. Because one, I wanted people to experience Reiki. Because like I do most of my online sessions or one-on-one sessions online, and for people who don't even know what Reiki is, it's really good introduction to Reiki. And then two, they get to have a little taste of an experience of just, I mean, that's just overview Reiki, right? That's just nonchalant Reiki that I'm just sending to the whoever's watching. Whereas if you have a one-on-one session, then we find out we have a consultation, what's going on, stuff like that. And then we get to tailor it to you, and it's even more powerful. But it is really cool for people to have their experience, even just doing the live group Reiki. I think that's really cool because it's, I mean, people have talked about it that have like never had an experience before, and they're experiencing stuff and they're like, what is going on?
What is this? What's happening?
It's the coolest thing. So
That's
I like
awesome.
this. So it's pretty cool about your Akashic records.
I know. I'm like, I plan to do this again. Yeah.
And I mean that we could do a whole episode just on Akashic records, really, to break it down for people. But there's some.
Oh, that would be good. Oh, I'm gonna add that to our list.
Oh, I don't think it's on there. So if you're watching this, which you're probably have already joined in every week, probably, but you can always comment on here or message either one of us and let us know like what you would like to cover as a topic on one of the episodes. And we have a list that's always going, and usually one of us will go between the list because we switch every week, and we'll pick a topic from that list to cover that week. So like today we picked balance. Last week we picked empaths.
Yeah.
And apparently we weren't supposed to be talking about that because
No, all that interference.
yeah, lots of interference. So there was something there with that, and I don't know if it was whatever, not wanting people to know that ability. But empaths was definitely a big one last week. Hey Darcy. So if you didn't watch that, you might go back and watch it because there's obviously some good gems in there that they didn't want everybody to know.
I know, they're like, can't know about empaths. Yeah. Those empaths, man.
Which most people are empaths. Like there's a high majority of people that don't even know it. Most of my clients that come in to see me end up being empaths, and they don't even know it. They're taking on other people's stuff, which is why I wanted to cover it last week, because so many people are empaths and they need to protect themselves. It's important.
Very true.
It's getting drained and getting the life sucked out of you. I want you to protect yourself and ground yourself. So.
It's rough out here, man.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. We got all the comments. That was super cool. Yeah. Well, I'm glad you like it. So yeah, I do that every Monday night at 7 p.m. every week. That free 10-15 minute Reiki session. So, and you can always go back and watch the replays. And
I always watch the replays, and I still get the same benefit.
Yeah, you're still gonna get the same.
Because time and space don't matter.
They don't exist. And that's when my intention, when I'm at the beginning of every episode of every live, when I'm doing that, I put my intention that whoever goes back and watches this live or the replay is going to get the same benefits as if they were watching live. So that's why it's good that you can go back and watch it however many times is needed. If you're sick, I definitely suggest that you go through and just rewatch it. If you ever have like pains or illness or whatever, go back and watch it. If someone passes away, if you're having a bad day, like whatever, go back and watch a replay, even if it's not a Monday, because you're still going to get the Reiki energy healing, and it'll help you for that day. And that's the purpose I wanted behind that, is that you can go watch those things as many times as you need, even on the replays if you can't join live on Mondays. I set up reminders so I don't miss it. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's cool. Well, thank you for joining in on those. So I appreciate it. So, Darcy, I know you're just joining us. So we've kind of covered a lot, but we talked about earlier about if you had an awakening moment at any point in your life, if there was a time for you that maybe it was an event, something that happened that kind of woke you up to where you started viewing things differently. And if you want to share that, you can unmute yourself and share with us. And if not, that's okay too. But we did share that.
No pressure. No pressure.
No
I
pressure.
just don't want you to like feel left out.
I'm just kidding. Yeah. I was just giving her the chance if she wants to share. She can unmute herself and do it. And if not, that's okay too. So. Yeah. Sorry, I have something in my throat.
A throat chakra.
I guess. Apparently I'm supposed to say something, but I don't know what else I'm supposed to say.
Like, I don't know.
Apparently you're supposed to be quiet. Maybe Darcy wants to say something.
Yeah. She's like, no, don't make me say it.
No, she's like, no, don't look at me. Don't look at me.
Well, is there anything else that you want to?
Bye, Darcy. Bye, Darcy.
Is there anything that you want to cover, Morgan? Anything else that we haven't?
No, I think we covered a lot.
Okay.
Which is good for the shorter amount of time we've taken.
Yeah.
But it's been a different.
It's a different vibe. I still like the vibe better. I say better. It's not comparative. It's different things. Yeah. But this is still nice. I think we should do these every now and then, like to get everybody on here to interact. I think it is good. Plus, some of the people that wanted to do these weren't able to even join tonight. So I want to be sure, like every now and then we do these. Maybe and like
backup too when Facebook doesn't want to behave.
Yes. When it has its
hiccup. You can't bring it down.
Today and last week.
I'm telling you, last week it took me like 4 times trying to get through your guys' show because it kept just stopping all the time. I was like listening to it at work, and then it would stop, and then I'd get busy. Then somebody walked by, and I'd have to stop. It was terrible, but I got through it. It was awesome.
Well, we appreciate you taking that many chances to get through it.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It was great.
Well, that's what we were talking about. Is obviously last week Facebook or the collective, the whoever didn't want us talking about empaths. So, but we did it.
Clearly.
So got out there, and people who were supposed to hear it heard it. So that's all that matters.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
We just speak, and whoever needs to hear it will hear it, and that's that.
I was gonna say, I'm not sure that I've had an exact moment in time where I've been like, hey, I'm more awake now and realizing this. But you guys said something the other week about your ears ringing. Mm-hmm. And that has been happening to me like the last 6 months, seriously. Off and on, and I'm like, what is going on? It's finally stopped now, but it was like going on for a while, and I'm like, what the heck is going on here? So when you said the ears ringing, I'm like, ooh, well, that's what
they would call an ascension symptom. So when you're raising your frequency, your vibration, that tends to happen sometimes. Which is why I brought it up, because people are like, am I losing my hearing? Like, what's going on?
Like, what's happening? Am I breaking?
Well, it's almost like, when you hear a loud noise, like a big bang or something, and that ringing in your ear afterwards, it's like constant.
Yeah.
And it's really annoying. But no, that's all it is. Kimmy said, yes, I have ears ringing all the time. So you guys are raising your vibration. So keep doing whatever you're doing. It's good. It's annoying, but it's not forever. It's only temporary. Just remember that.
Does anyone have where
shooting off fireworks?
You have ringing in your ears, but like when you focus on it, like if you choose to focus on it, you hear it. Otherwise, you're like, tune it out. Is that a thing? Because that's what happens with me.
I'm about to freak out because they're shooting off fireworks now.
I don't know, but my husband has tinnitus, and that's where it's ringing in the ears all the time. But that's a condition. That's from damage of the eardrums.
Yeah.
You might. Did you say your husband has it?
Yeah.
You might try. I don't know if you do essential oils or anything like that, but doTERRA essential oils, and putting some on the back of the ear, like not on the ear, but on the, what is that called? The skin on your flap. Yeah, the flap that's on your head,
Your
not
ear flaps.
but the one behind.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Rub some on there.
Your ear flaps.
Yeah, I don't know what they're called. So, like, it's not the actual ear, but it's behind. It's like this part of your neck. That's where
Okay.
you see if that helps.
Okay. Thank you.
It's funny.
Okay. Well, if there's anything else that you want to cover, if not, I'll probably hop off here because I don't want him barking on here the whole time because he's freaking out right now.
Oh, poor guy.
Oh, real quickly, what time did you guys start? Because I can never remember exactly what time.
So
your time is my time.
8:30 Central Time, which is 6:30 your time.
It is. Okay. I
Yep.
couldn't remember if it was 6:30 or 7:30. So, all right. I'm on it next week.
Okay.
Back
You come on. You're here when you're meant to be here. It's all good.
That's right.
and we should be back to our normal lives and stuff next week. And then we're recording this right now, so we should be able. Fingers crossed.
Yes.
We're recording this, so we should be able to download it and upload it. I think I can add it to the playlist that I have going.
On YouTube.
Yeah, on YouTube, and then I think I can also put the link or upload it at least into the AWAKEN Vlogcast group.
Yeah.
Cool.
That'd be good.
We'll see. So fingers crossed that it works. So Marilyn also said, yeah, I've had that like out of nowhere, but I never realized it could be something. Yeah. So it's very common when you're going through your awakening process, raising your vibration, ringing ears is one of the symptoms. Also like flu-like symptoms of just feeling really tired all the time. It's important to drink lots of water during those times too, because you're also going to be purging stuff a lot more quickly. Anyway, that's all I've got for tonight. Do you have anything else?
I do not.
When I was younger, my ear ringing used to be followed by arguing or fighting with someone, not anymore, but when I was younger. Interesting. So maybe there was something that was going on there that you were picking up on too, Kimmy. I'm not sure. All right, well, thank you guys for joining. I know that this was a little bit different than it normally was. We will plan on being back on Facebook Live next Wednesday at 8:30 at our normal time. Fingers crossed that Facebook's working great that day and not down most of the day.
Yeah.
So it kind of worked out that we did this today because we've been talking about doing a Zoom because a lot of people do like to interact live and talk face-to-face. But we will be back to our normal programming next Wednesday. I don't like saying program.
Regularly scheduled programming.
A regularly scheduled show. We'll be back next week. So if you're not following the AWAKEN Vlogcast series Facebook events, you can go like those, and you'll also get updates that way anytime we post about what the topic's going to be that day, or for some reason, if there's not going to be a show that day or whatever, we always comment in there, so you're always getting updates on it. And then you can also join the AWAKEN Vlogcast community, which is just our group that we've set up so that you guys can communicate with each other. It's the purpose is so you know you're not alone, obviously, and we're here every Wednesday. But for those of you who maybe aren't friends, I know some of you guys are on Facebook, but for those of you who aren't, you can at least interact in the group, like, so you're not alone going through certain things, or if you just want to talk things out or have a sounding board or share cool stuff, like something maybe you're experiencing or questions you have or whatever. That's why we created that group also.
Yep.
All right, well, thank you guys for joining. I appreciate it. I know this is a little different, and there's still a ton of you guys on, so I thank you for joining us and sticking with us despite all of our technical difficulties the past 2 weeks. We're still persevering, and we're still doing this because
Make it work.
You guys, so I'm excited about it.
Me too.
Thank you, guys.
You're welcome.
All right. Bye, guys.
See you guys next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
You're welcome. Bye.